A very good evening aspirants, welcome to Daily Newspaper Analysis of Shankar IAS Academy. Today's date is 12th of February 2024. Displayed here are the list of news articles that we are going to discuss today. We have chosen articles from yesterday's newspaper as well. Apart from this, we have posted mains article discussion yesterday for the past week. So if you have not gone through it, just visit the channel and check it out. So with this, let us move on to the first news article discussion. Take a look at this news article from Business Standards newspaper. The news is that the Ministry of Corporate Affairs has for the first time prepared a draft digital competition bill with ex-ante regulations. Here the term ex-ante means before the event. Ex-ante regulations aim at identifying issues in the market beforehand and shape stakeholder behavior and responses through regulatory interventions. So, ex-ante regulations will tell businesses precisely how to behave or what to do. So, such ex-ante regulations in the bill will require digital entities to ensure interoperability, data sharing and portability. This is the crux of the news article given here. So, in this news article discussion, let us understand some of the suggestions given by Jayant Sinha-led Standing Committee on anti-competitive practices by big tech companies. So, who are these big tech companies? See, the term big tech is used to refer to a handful of large, globally significant technology companies like Google, Facebook, Amazon, Apple and Microsoft. Any company can become a big tech company and any existing one may drop out of it. So, regulating them is very important, especially with respect to the anti-competitive practices. So, now let's go through the key observations and recommendations of the committee one by one. Firstly, the committee recommended that India must identify the leading players in digital markets that can negatively influence competitive conduct. They should be categorized as systematically important digital intermediaries, that is SIDIs, based on their revenue, market capitalization and the number of active businesses and end users. SIDIs should annually submit a report to the Competition Commission of India, CCI, with the detailed measures taken to comply with various mandatory obligations. Secondly, the committee observed that India need to enhance its competition law to address the needs of the digital market. So the committee recommended that the government should introduce a Digital Competition Act to ensure a fair, transparent and contestable digital ecosystem. Thirdly, with reference to self-preferencing, see, an entity may have the dual role of providing the platform and competing on the same platform. For example, you might browse through Google to connect with Skype web. But again, Google itself has Google Meet and the Google recommends you to use the Google Meet. This is known as self-preferencing. So, self-preferencing is a practice wherein a platform favors its own services or the services of its subsidiaries. The committee noted this lack of platform neutrality can lead to a negative effect on downstream markets. So, it recommended that SIDIs must not favor their own services over those of their competitors when mediating access. Fourthly and most importantly, with respect to data usage, see, the committee noted that market leaders who have access to the personal data of users tend to get bigger while new entries struggle to acquire users and user data. So the committee recommended that SIDIs should not process the personal data of end users who use services of third parties if such parties use the core services of the city. SIDIs are also not allowed to combine personal data from the relevant core services of the platform with personal data from any other core services of the platform, and the end users should not be signed into other services of the platform unless he has been presented with a specific choice to which he has consented. Fifthly, with respect to revamping CCI, see, the CCI regulates market competition in India, but the committee opined that CCI should be strengthened to address anti-competitive behavior in digital markets as well. It suggested the creation of a specialized digital market unit in CCI. This unit should monitor established and emerging SIDIs, give recommendations to the central government on designating SIDIs and adjudicate on cases related to digital market. Apart from this, the committee has noted that certain entities have been found to restrict the installation or operation of third-party applications. Here, a third-party app is an application created by a developer that isn't the manufacturer of the device the app runs or the owner of the website that offers it. This practice should be completely ignored, and the SIDIs should allow and technically enable the installation and use of third-party software applications, and it should be easily accessible as well. Seventhly, with respect to bundling and tying, see, many digital firms forces consumers to buy related services. The committee noted that this creates asymmetry in pricing and leads to the removal of competition from the market. It also enables leading players to leverage their market power in one core platform to another. So it opined that cities should not force businesses or end users to subscribe to any further services for being able to use their core platform services. Finally, with respect to anti-steering, say anti-steering provisions or clauses wherein a platform prevents its business users from steering its customers to offer other than those provided by the platform. The committee suggested that cities should not make access to their platform conditional on the purchase or use of other products or services that are not part of or intrinsic to the platform. So these are the major suggestions given by the Jayant Sinha committee, and we have to wait and see how this proposed bill will get into a shape. So with these learned points, now let us move on to the next news article discussion. Take a look at this FAQ article. This article talks about an important issue of ensuring child safety in the world. The article talks about various threats in internet like graphic sexual content, bullying, sexual harassment and abuse, and etc. See, this will be more severe with the rise of various alternative realities offered by the internet, and this could raise issues in children like trauma, soliciting and abuse online, which can leave deep psychological scars that impact lives in their real world. This is the crux of the news article given here. So in this news article discussion, let us analyze about the ill impacts of technology on the children with our mains answer writing approach. Let me read out the question for you. Children cuddling is now being replaced by mobile phones. Discuss its impacts on the socialization of children. See, this question can be asked in GS paper 1 under the topics given here. The question given here is a well structured question. Firstly, it asks us to discuss the invasion of smartphones into the private life of the people. Then we can talk about the impacts on the socialization of children. So this is how we are going to approach this particular question. Now let us move on to the introduction part. To begin with, let us see a report from the Ministry of Electronics and IT. This report says that around 23.8% of children use smartphones while they are in bed before going to sleep. Also, around 37.15% of children have experienced reduced levels of concentration due to smartphone usage. These two data will be a shock for any country as its future depends on its children. As the Indian economy and society is expanding, so is the smartphone penetration in the society. India is one of the biggest user of smartphones and it is making our lives easier. But like any other technology, this is a double-edged sword having a ramification on our society. This is even more dangerous as this is directly impacting our children, which is evident from the data which we saw now. So you can write these points in the introduction part. Now moving on to the main body of the answer. As I said earlier, in the first part, we are going to talk about the reasons for increasing mobile cuddling than child cuddling. See, the first reason is the nuclearization of families. As we know that globalization and urbanization necessitates a nuclear family, this is reducing the bondages within the family and increasing individuality. So they are focusing on their social networks than family. The modern work style also demands them to work 24/7. It means giving support from the home also. This is also making them to use mobile phone for work related issues. Secondly, with increasing social networking sites like Instagram, Twitter and etc., the parents themselves are addicted to mobiles. As we all know, children imitate the parents, so naturally they are also attracted towards mobile phones. Thirdly, the ever increasing applications invading every aspect of life. This makes it an indispensable partner and guide to do normal household chores. Let us see an example. We are using YouTube channels and apps for even cooking our regular items. The hypocrisy is like this. We are using smartphone apps to reduce the smartphone addictions. Fourthly, with the rise of play schools and other day care centers and the increasing economic potential of the parents to adopt or reducing the role of parents as a primary agent of socialization of children. So you can write these points in the first part of the body. Now in the second part of the body, let us see about the impacts on the children. See, the first and foremost impact is the reduction in socialization of children. See, often we are talking about socialization, right? Is it that much important? The answer to this question is yes. Socialization plays a pivotal role in shaping children's behavior. It is like a process of educating the values of society to the children. We should dress like this, eat like this, share your food, help your friends, and etc. If this gets disturbed, children will have less emotional bonding, and this will reduce the social relationship amongst themselves. Secondly, increased usage of smartphones will reduce the cognitive and comprehension skills of the children. See, as we all know, due to COVID-19, children learned through online learning. But nowadays, it has become a norm and they are preparing many courses in online format. This may severely affect their social skills. Apart from this, e-learning through videos will hamper the imaginative abilities of the children. Thirdly, it is a serious health concern for the children. See, the AIMS survey shows that the prevalence of myopia or short-sightedness amongst the kid in urban area was 8.5%, and in the rural area it was 6.1%. The report also gives a shock by saying that this number has doubled in the last decade due to excess usage of electronic gadgets. Apart from this, children are facing many issues like anxiety, addiction, sleep disturbance, and etc. Fourthly, children fall victim to many online threats like cyberbullying, child pornography, and etc. Who could have forgot the dangerous blue whale game which exploited the children and led to their suicides? So you can write these points in the second part of your answer. Now moving on to the conclusion part. See, the destiny of any society or a nation rests on the way it treats its children. This treatment gets affected when we replace child cuddling with mobiles. This will impact the physical, emotional, and moral well-being of the children. So it is in our best interest. We should intercept the issues and balance the work and life for a sustainable and happy family. As we know, the nation is the larger subset of the family. This will make the nation wealthy, as human resources are the invaluable assets in any nation. So that's all regarding this news article discussion. So in this news article discussion, we saw in detail about the reasons for increasing mobile cuddling than child cuddling, and then we saw about the impacts of mobile cuddling on the children. So with these learned points, now let us move on to the next news article discussion. Take a look at this news article. According to the news article, in UP, FIRs were filed against cops after a detained man attempted suicide in their police station. So in this news article discussion, let us understand about various detention laws in India. Firstly, what is a detention? See, in simple words, detention means holding the individual in custody and curbing his or her liberty. This is important for ensuring the safety and order in the society and to reduce the crimes. Now let us trace the laws which are governing the detention in India. Firstly, with respect to the Constitution, under Article 22, this article deals with two types of detention. First, with respect to detention of ordinary law, and second, with respect to the cases of preventive detention law. Remember, under Article 22, Clause 4, the maximum time period of detention under preventive detention will be for 3 months unless an advisory board reports a sufficient cause for an extension. Remember, even though 44th Amendment Act of 1978 has reduced it to 2 months, but it didn't enter into force. So the original period of 3 months continues till now. Secondly, entry 9 of Union List, Parliament has the exclusive power to enact a law for preventive detention. Know that this will be for the issues related to defense, foreign affairs, or security of India. Apart from this, under entry 3 of concurrent list, both Parliament and state legislature have power to enact laws for the maintenance of public order or providing essential services to the community. So apart from the Constitution, many laws were enacted in India which provides scope for detention. Let us see them one by one. Firstly, National Security Act or the NSA of 1980. This is a state-specific law like the Maintenance of Internal Security Act, MISA, and the Public Safety Act, PSA. This act provides scope for the authorities to detain an individual. Apart from this, under the UAPA, the investigating agency can file a charge sheet in maximum 180 days after arresting the individual. This means he or she can be detained for a maximum of 180 days without FIR. Also note that the duration can be extended further after intimating the court. So these are all certain important facts that you have to remember about detention laws in India. So with these learned points, now let us move on to the next news article discussion. Take a look at this text and context article. This article highlights some important aspects of global warming. It argues that we need to focus on global warming patterns rather than on temperature thresholds to address climate change more effectively. So in this news article discussion, let us understand some of the important points given in the news article. See, we all know about the Paris Agreement on climate change. It is a legally binding agreement under the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, UNFCCC. It was adopted in COP21 2015. Its main aim was to limit global warming to well below 2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial level, with an ambition to limit warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius. So this agreement replaced the Kyoto Protocol, which was an earlier agreement to deal with climate change. So under this Paris Agreement, to achieve this goal, each country is required to submit and update their nationally determined contributions every 5 years. Here the nationally determined contributions, or the NDCs, or the pledges made by countries to reduce their greenhouse gas emission and to adapt to the impacts of climate change. Some of India's commitments for climate change include: firstly, India is planning to cut down the amount of pollution it makes per amount of money it earns by 45% compared to what it was in 2005. Secondly, by the year 2030, India wants half of its electricity to come from cleaner sources like the sun and wind instead of oil, coal or gas. Then it also aims to boost its clean energy capacity to 500 gigawatts by 2030. It also aims to reduce its carbon pollution by 1 billion ton by the same year and reach a point where it does not add any more pollution to the atmosphere by 2070. So these are some of the basics about Paris Agreement. Now here comes the question whether we crossed the 1.5 degrees Celsius threshold in 2023 or not. So to identify the answer for this question, a study was conducted based on estimates from paleothermometry. Here paleothermometry is nothing but the determination of the temperature at which a geological process occurred in the past. Scientists uses paleoproxies for this purpose. Paleoproxies are nothing but a technique that uses chemical evidence stored in various organic matters like corals, stalactite and stalagmite to approximate the temperature at some point in the past. The result of this study indicates that the Earth's surface may have already warmed by more than 1.5 degrees Celsius on average over pre-industrial levels. But remember, these paleoproxies are still only indirect evidence of temperature changes with respect to a baseline temperature. So the evidence cannot measure the actual overall temperature change. So even though the result of the study is identified a very local temperature anomaly, it also highlights the importance of understanding other aspects of global warming, like focusing on predicting warming patterns rather than focusing only on limiting the temperature threshold of 1.5 degrees Celsius. Now let us quickly see why we should focus on predicting warming patterns. See, we all know about how El Nino works. It depends upon whether warming is occurring in the Eastern Pacific Ocean or closer to the international dateline. So depending upon the warming, the El Nino's impact on the monsoon and the other parts of the world can be very different. These same processes work in the global warming regime as well. See, as human-made greenhouse gases initiate the warming pattern is amplified in the Arctic and over the desert region of the Middle East. But on the other hand, the damping occurs over the Eastern Pacific and the Northern Atlantic Oceans. Now, these local warmings and coolings and their magnitudes determine the net effect of natural variability and global warming in a particular locality. This insists us to understand how relying on arbitrary temperature thresholds is ignoring the broader complexities of global warming patterns. Here you have to understand one thing. See, the 1.5 degrees Celsius is not a scientific threshold. It became enshrined in the Paris Agreement after intense negotiations. So the need of the hour is the accurate predictions of warming pattern to manage the climate change impacts. We are in the need for a prediction system that can predict not only on an even to even basis but also in order to adapt to the changing seasons and the unavoidable harm they are rendering to lives, livelihood and economies. So in this news article discussion, we saw in brief about Paris Agreement on climate change, and then we saw why it is very important to focus on warming patterns. So these learned points. Now let us move on to the next part of the news article discussion, which is the preliminary practice question discussion. Now look at this first question about Competition Commission of India. 3 statements are given and you have to find how many statements given here is or are correct. See, the first statement says it is an executive body which aims to establish a robust competitive environment. This statement is actually incorrect because the Competition Commission of India is a statutory body established under Competition Act of 2002. Now the second statement says the Competition Commission of India is currently functional with a chairman and 2 members. This statement is correct. Third statement says the appeals from the order of CCI lies with National Company Law Appellate Tribunal NCLAT. This statement is also correct. See, earlier, in accordance with the provisions of the Act, the Competition Commission of India and the Competition Appellate Tribunal has been established, but the government replaced the Competition Appellate Tribunal with the National Company Law Appellate Tribunal NCLAT in 2017. So the correct answer for this question is option B, only 2. Only 2 statements are correct here. Moving on. Here again 3 statements are given about Paris Agreement on climate change. You have to find how many statements given here is or are correct. Here the first statement says it aims to limit global warming to well below 2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial level with a further goal of limiting the increase to 1.5 degrees Celsius. This statement is correct. Second statement says the agreement mandates that all parties must submit new or updated NDCs every 5 years. This statement is also correct. Statement 3 says it introduced a legal binding commitment for all countries to reduce their carbon emission. See, this statement is incorrect. The agreement itself does not impose legally binding emission reduction target on countries. Instead, it relies on a framework of nationally determined contributions to drive progress. This makes the statement incorrect. So the correct answer for the question is option B, 2 only. Now moving on, here 2 statements about detention is given. First statement says the Constitution of India provides that the time limit of preventive detention cannot extend beyond 1 month unless an advisory board provides sufficient reason for the extension. This statement is wrong. Actually, it is not 1 month, it is 3 months. Now the second statement says the person should be informed of the reason for his or her detention. This statement is correct. So the correct answer for the question is option B, 2 only. Now moving on, displayed here are the mains practice question for you today. Just go through the question and try to answer it in the comment section. So with this, we came to the end of the news article discussion. If you like the video, hit like, do comment, and don't forget to subscribe to Shankar IAS Academy YouTube channel. Now thank you so much for listening.